He was called a monster, a beast, the baddest man on the planet. But beneath the ferocity, the knockouts, the chaos, there was a man wrestling with something deeper. Pain, fear, discipline. This is not just the story of Mike Tyson, the boxer. This is the story of Mike Tyson, the philosopher. A man who turned his suffering into strength, his fear into fire, and his chaos into wisdom. Welcome to Mike Tyson's philosophy about pain, fear, and discipline. 1. Why Mike Tyson is more than a fighter. Mike Tyson is a paradox. A man who could destroy opponents with a single punch, yet crumble under the weight of his own demons. A figure who was both feared and misunderstood, celebrated and vilified. But to see only the boxer is to miss the man. Tyson's life is a map of human struggle, a journey through pain, fear, and the relentless pursuit of discipline. He is not just a fighter. He is a mirror, reflecting the battles we all face within ourselves. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. This quote, perhaps Tyson's most famous, is more than a quip about boxing. It's a universal truth about life. Plans crumble. Dreams shatter. Pain comes for us all. But what do you do when life lands that punch? Tyson's answer lies not in his fists, but in his philosophy, a raw, hard-earned wisdom forged in the fires of his own existence. Born on June 30th, 1966, in Brooklyn, New York, Michael Gerard Tyson entered a world that seemed designed to break him. Poverty, violence, and abandonment shaped his early years. His father left before he could form memories. His mother, Lorna, struggled to provide, often lost in her own battles with addiction and despair. Young Mike was a target, soft-spoken, overweight, and mocked for his high-pitched voice. By age 10, he was already stealing to survive, already fighting to protect himself from a world that showed no mercy. Yet, even in this chaos, there was a spark, a hunger, a refusal to be defined by circumstance. Tyson's life would become a testament to the idea that pain, when faced head-on, can forge something unbreakable. This is the story of how a boy from the streets became a legend, and what he learned along the way. 2. The origin of pain. Pain was Mike Tyson's cradle. It rocked him to sleep in the cramped, roach-infested apartments of Brownsville, Brooklyn. It whispered to him as he walked streets where survival demanded a clenched fist. For young Mike, pain wasn't just an event, it was a constant, a shadow that followed him, a weight he carried in his chest. I grew up in pain. I didn't know what it was like to not be hurt. This wasn't just physical pain, though the streets ensured plenty of that. It was the deeper ache of abandonment, the sting of a mother too broken to nurture, the humiliation of being the fat kid with a lisp, mocked by peers who saw weakness and pounced. By age 13, Tyson had been arrested 38 times. He was a child of chaos, shaped by a world that offered no kindness. But pain, for all its cruelty, is a teacher. It taught Tyson to adapt, to fight back, to survive. In the streets, he learned that vulnerability was a death sentence. He learned to wear his pain like armor, to let it fuel his fists. By the time he was sent to the Tryon School for Boys, a juvenile detention center, at age 12, Tyson was already a product of his environment, raw, angry, and unbreakable. It was here, in the unlikeliest of places, that pain introduced him to his destiny. A former boxer named Bobby Stewart saw something in the troubled boy. Not just strength, but hunger. Stewart introduced Tyson to boxing, and in doing so, gave him a way to channel his pain. Boxing wasn't just a sport for young Mike. It was salvation, a way to take the chaos inside him and give it form, purpose, direction. Pain had carved him. Now it would define him. 3. Fear is a weapon. Fear is a universal language. It speaks in the racing pulse before a fight, the cold sweat of uncertainty. For Mike Tyson, fear was not an enemy to be conquered. It was a weapon to be sharpened. I'm scared all the time, but I use that fear. I make it work for me. Tyson understood something profound. Fear is power in disguise. In the ring, he became a master of psychological warfare. His stare, cold and unyielding, could unravel opponents before a punch was thrown. His reputation as Iron Mike was built not just on knockouts, but on the aura of terror he cultivated. Opponents didn't just fight Tyson, they fought the myth of Tyson. But this mastery came from a deep understanding of his own fear. As a boy, Tyson was terrified of the streets, of failure, of being seen as weak. That fear drove him to the gym, to the heavy bag, to the mirror where he practiced his scowl. Under the guidance of trainer Cus D'Amato, Tyson learned to harness fear, to let it fuel his aggression. Cus taught him that fear is not a flaw, it's a signal. A reminder to be sharp, to be ready, to be alive. Consider the night of November 22nd, 1986. Tyson, just 20 years old, faced Trevor Berbick for the WBC heavyweight title. Berbick was a seasoned champion, a man who had fought the best. But Tyson was a storm. He entered the ring with a look that said he was already the victor. Berbick crumbled in 2 rounds, knocked out by a left hook that carried not just power, but intent. Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in history. Fear had been his ally, not his enemy. Yet, Tyson's relationship with fear was a double-edged sword. Outside the ring, he struggled to control it. Fear of abandonment led to toxic relationships. Fear of losing his edge led to reckless choices. Tyson's genius was in using fear to dominate opponents, but his tragedy was in letting it dominate him. 4. Discipline over desire. Discipline is not glamorous. It's not the roar of the crowd or the flash of gold belts. It's the quiet grind of early mornings, the ache of sore muscles, the choice to say no when every fiber of you screams yes. For Mike Tyson, discipline was the difference between survival and destruction. Cus told me, discipline is doing what you hate to do, but doing it like you love it. Cus D'Amato, the grizzled trainer who became Tyson's surrogate father, was the architect of his discipline. When Tyson arrived at Cus' gym in Catskill, New York, at age 14, he was a raw bundle of rage and potential. Cus saw not just a fighter, but a boy desperate for structure. He gave Tyson a home, a purpose, and a code. Cus' training was brutal. 5 a.m. runs in the freezing Catskill winters. Hours of shadowboxing, bag work, sparring. No shortcuts, no excuses. Cus drilled into Tyson that talent was nothing without discipline. He taught him to study opponents like a scholar, to move like a chess grandmaster, to live like a monk. Tyson wasn't just training his body, he was training his mind. This discipline bore fruit. By 1985, at age 19, Tyson was a professional, tearing through the heavyweight division with a 15-0 record, all but won by knockout. His fights were events, spectacles of precision and power. He didn't just win, he dominated. Each punch was a testament to the hours spent in the gym, the meals skipped, the temptations ignored. But discipline is fragile. It requires vigilance, purpose, a reason to keep going. For Tyson, that reason was Cus. When Cus died in 1985, just as Tyson's star was rising, the anchor was gone. Without Cus, Tyson's discipline began to fray. The temptations of fame, money, women, drugs crept in. Discipline had made him champion. Its absence would lead to his collapse. 5. Rage and collapse. Success is a dangerous drug. It can lift you to heights unimaginable, or plunge you into depths you never saw coming. For Mike Tyson, success came too fast, too young. By age 21, he was the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Rich, famous, invincible. But beneath the surface, the pain and fear he had never fully faced were simmering. I thought I was a god, but gods don't bleed, and I was bleeding inside. Tyson's rise was meteoric, but his fall was catastrophic. The death of Cus D'Amato left him unmoored. Without his mentor's guidance, Tyson's discipline eroded. He surrounded himself with enablers, managers, promoters, hangers-on who fed his ego and drained his soul. The boy who had once lived like a monk now lived like a king, indulging every desire. Parties, cars, mansions, tigers. The world was his, but he was losing himself. In 1990, the unthinkable happened. Tyson, undefeated and seemingly unbeatable, faced James "Buster" Douglas in Tokyo. He entered the ring unprepared, overconfident, distracted by personal chaos. Douglas, an underdog with 42-1 odds, knocked him out in the 10th round. The world gasped. The baddest man on the planet was human after all. The loss was just the beginning. In 1992, Tyson was convicted of rape and sentenced to 6 years in prison. The boy who had fought to escape the streets was now behind bars. Prison stripped him of everything: fame, wealth, freedom, but it also forced him to confront himself. In the silence of his cell, Tyson began to reflect. Who was he without the gloves? Without the crowd? Without the myth? Pain, once his teacher, returned to ask harder questions. 6. Rebirth. Redemption is not a straight line. It's a jagged path, marked by stumbles and scars. For Mike Tyson, redemption was not about reclaiming the heavyweight title. It was about reclaiming himself. I had to lose everything to find out who I was. Released from prison in 1995, Tyson returned to boxing. He won back titles, but the fire was different. The rage that once fueled him had softened. He was no longer the boy who needed to prove his worth through violence. He was a man searching for meaning. Tyson's later years were a study in transformation. He battled addiction, bankruptcy, and public humiliation. He lost millions, his reputation, even his sense of self. But in that loss, he found something new: humility. He began to speak openly about his struggles, his fears, his regrets, his vulnerabilities. In interviews, he was no longer the snarling Iron Mike. He was introspective, philosophical, even gentle. Tyson turned to new ventures: acting, writing, podcasting. His one-man show, Undisputed Truth, was a raw confession of his life's highs and lows. He spoke of pain not as a curse, but as a guide. He spoke of fear not as weakness, but as truth. He spoke of discipline as the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. Today, Tyson is a father, a husband, a thinker. He meditates. He reads. He reflects. The beast has become a monk, not in the sense of retreating from the world, but in embracing it with clarity and grace. 7. What pain taught him. Mike Tyson's philosophy is not found in books or lectures. It's written in the scars of his life. Pain, for Tyson, is not something to avoid. It's something to embrace, to learn from, to transform. Pain is your friend. It lets you know you're alive. Tyson's life is a masterclass in the alchemy of pain. From the streets of Brooklyn to the heights of fame, from prison cells to personal redemption, pain has been his constant companion. But it has also been his greatest teacher. It taught him resilience, how to stand up when the world knocks you down. It taught him empathy, how to feel the struggles of others. It taught him wisdom, how to see beyond the moment, to find meaning in the struggle. Consider his fight against Evander Holyfield in 1997, the infamous bite fight. In a moment of rage and desperation, Tyson bit Holyfield's ear, a move that shocked the world and led to his disqualification. It was a low point, a symbol of his inner chaos. But years later, Tyson apologized. He spoke of the shame, the fear, the lack of control that drove him to that moment. Pain had exposed his flaws, but it also led him to accountability. Tyson's wisdom is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about facing the parts of yourself you'd rather hide and choosing to grow anyway. Pain, for Tyson, is not the end. It's the beginning. 8. Quotes and lessons that will stay with you. Mike Tyson's life is a library of lessons, each one hard one. His words, raw and unfiltered, cut through the noise of modern life. They remind us to face our fears, to embrace our pain, to fight for discipline. Here are some of his most powerful insights. On fear. I'm scared every time I go into the ring, but it's how I use that fear that makes me who I am. Lesson. Fear is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign you're alive. Use it to sharpen your focus, to fuel your purpose. On discipline. Without discipline, no matter how good you are, you're nothing. Lesson. Talent is a spark, but discipline is the fire. It's the daily choices, the unseen work that builds greatness. On pain. You don't know who you are until you've been through pain. Lesson. Pain reveals your character. It strips away the masks and forces you to confront your truth. On redemption. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to be better than I was yesterday. Lesson: growth is not about erasing your past. It's about learning from it and choosing a better path.